Good morning to you. Good morning. It's truly a pleasure to be back here on campus. I've been here a few times. It's always amazing what you're doing, what you've done, and where you're going. So you're my kind of people, and this is my kind of place. Sadly, for those of you who came this morning hoping to learn something new, you're probably not going to learn anything here from me. Everything that has or needs to be said on this topic of innovation has actually already been said. You may not have been listening. So one of the benefits from this morning's talk might be that you get to hear it a different way. You get to understand it perhaps in a slightly different context. And if I do my job correctly with you this morning, it'll be a little bit more memorable for you so that you can start as you grow and continue to change, understand and appreciate what is really going on from an innovation perspective. The operative word that I want in your mind right now is change. I really want you to be thinking while I'm talking about your own individual capacity for change. And I mean this sincerely. How much change do you like in your life? How much change do you lead? How much change do you follow? And how much change do you avoid? Because in the final analysis, it is an individual, a company, an institution, a country, and a planet's capacity for change that determines just how successful we are ultimately. So I want you to be keeping that in mind. I also want you to understand that I am preaching to the choir. I don't mean to be lecturing you on things that you already know. And I don't mean to be trying to impart passion to you where there already is passion. So I'm not trying to insult you in any way, shape, or manner. But someone once asked me, well, then why do you keep going to these places that don't? And I said, because I like to be there. And I'm not a fool. Why do you want to talk to people who don't want to talk to you? I learned a long time ago from my wonderful mother, it's a lot easier to be where people want you. And that's why I'm here. Because hopefully you, at least Rick, want me. With that said, let's get into this. Now I like this chart. I like this chart for a lot of reasons. This is a Kurzweil chart. It's classic. This chart actually represents my life. That's why I like it. Half of this chart is me. From here to there, just in case you were wondering what's half. It's an interesting chart for a number of reasons. The vertical axis, it's semi-logarithmic. I'm sure you picked that up right away. For a fixed amount of money, how many calculations can you get for a fixed amount of time? Very simple. And he plots this for 100+ years. If you study the curve long enough, what you find out is that for 100 years, you get 16 orders of magnitude more calculations per second for the same amount of money. 16 orders of magnitude. And, I would say, rising. Rising. So the steeper part of the slope is here, so it's a super exponential curve in the end. Now this should explain a lot of things to you. It should explain to you why people want to keep, buying more computers, why information technology is so important. Because, it's fundamentally cheaper. That's why. It's more pervasive. Yeah, and it's different. I mean, God forbid you were trying to do this with only mechanical systems or electromechanical systems, or where I entered with vacuum tubes. That's just, so it's technological substitution that's driven that curve. So if ever there's a chart that speaks to the value of technology, it's this chart. Well, maybe maybe it's this chart. This is the inverse of that. This drives down the cost of a calculation per second over that same time period. So this, for the money people, for the business-minded people, this is why information technology has become so incredibly pervasive. Now, I am of this primordial ooze, right? I am an electrical engineer, as Rick said. I actually did honest work for a living. I was a vacuum tube transistor integrated circuit computer designer for many years inside. Actually, I was even a ferrite core memory designer, to be honest with you, even before I became a vacuum tube circuit designer. So this is me. This is who I am. This is how I grew up. This is what I know. This is what my passion still is, but principally was, at least in my formative years in IBM. As I started to change away from the real issues of life and the real work of life, and started to think more about where are we going, what are we doing, why are we doing what we're doing, and why are we going where we think we're going, I started to think more about, is there something else going on? Now, this happens right around the end of the last century and the beginning of this new century. So I get a chance to kind of rethink what matters. I'm absolutely convinced that technology matters. I'm absolutely convinced that that's what's driven the industry. And I'm absolutely convinced, by the way, that not only is that where the bulk of the invention is, that's where the bulk of the innovation is. So the innovation that mattered was the technology that mattered. They became synonymous, if you get the linkage there. So in many cases, the technology, the invention, was good enough to be the innovation. So, as you moved from one form of technology, from bipolar or from vacuum tube to bipolar to CMOS, I mean, those things were big moves. And those big moves were good enough from a technology invention perspective to be the innovation. You have to wonder if that's going to continue. I wonder whether that was going to continue. So I step back and I think about it and I say, there's a lot of things going on in the world. A lot of things going on in the world, and maybe there's something else that matters. The ubiquity of the network. Profound, it's profound. I mean, that's an understatement. It's profound. I mean, you see, governments are now falling, based on the ubiquity of the network, for goodness sakes. Did you predict that? I didn't. I actually didn't predict the network either back in 1995. I know where I was in 1995. I know what I was doing. I'm not sure any of you were here, but I was. That's not what was on my mind. It's not the way it worked out. 1 million businesses, billions of people, and soon trillions of devices. Trillions of devices connected to the network. Phenomenal, phenomenal progress. This whole idea around not just open standards, but the state of openness, of the thinking in your minds. It's a different world. You think differently. You approach problems differently. I did too. I mean, I had to survive in IBM, we had to switch ourselves from being the quintessential proprietary company to the quintessential defender of the Holy Grail. Defender of the open Holy Grail. Would you have predicted that IBM would have been the defender of Linux? IBM? Not on a bet. But we are. As well as being the defender of the state of openness for interfaces to allow things to move faster in the world that's getting increasingly more complex. And then this whole idea around business designs. Now, of course, this is all technology enabled. I'm not naive. This is all of these things that we're talking about. They're all because technology has allowed these things to happen, enabled these things to happen. I mean, companies can take themselves apart, put themselves back together. Things that are vertical can be made horizontal. Things that are horizontal can be made vertical. You can go diagonal if you want. I mean, you can do almost anything you want with your company nowadays. Pretty much enabled by technology. So, if that's all going on, what really does matter when it comes to the topic of innovation? Are these things innovations all by themselves? I mean, let's just stick for a second with the network ubiquity. I mean, so who's making money there? And what money can be made there? And who's actually thought about making money there? I mean, what gets made? What money gets made in the ubiquity of the network? Maybe, if I'm a service provider, you pay me something for the ubiquity of my network. Maybe you have to buy a device, and those devices are so freaking cheap, nobody's making any money on them, by the way. They're just giving them to you to entice you to sign my service contract, and they're hoping they're going to make money on the service contract. Maybe it's in advertising. I'll get a tenth of a cent, you know, for every time my banner flashes in front of your eyes. You know, I have news for you. You know, the advertising budget of the world, the percentage of GDP, even in this country, it's minuscule compared to our GDP. So that's not a survivable, sustainable strategy. I mean, that only displaces one form of advertising over another. It doesn't expand any thoughts. Actually, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll tell you this again in a few minutes, ubiquity of the network has not been monetized. That's yet to be monetized. This whole phenomena around social networking has yet to come to its own. It's coming to its own in different ways. As we said, you know, we can tumble governments, but you know, who's making money on this thing? Other than the people who issue stock. Facebook, Twitter, Google. I mean, think about where the real money, where's the real business value? Where's the real business value? That's what drove me nuts here. And as I started to think about this, I realized that I needed to do something about it. So we were given the opportunity, circa 2002, 2003, to run this opportunity that the Council on Competitiveness had put up, called the National Innovation Initiative. So we did it. I took the leadership there, and we, with 45, 46, 47 other entities, colleges, universities, companies, labor, we went to work with the Council on Competitiveness, trying to figure out what is real innovation. What is it here in the 21st century? And is it different? And more importantly, not just what is it, what are we going to do about it as a country? What's going to matter in the final analysis? Are we going to be able to capture this value? Are we prepared in any way, shape? So I was partnered with Georgia Tech. Wayne Clough was my partner. We spent about 18 months working on this. And, you know, we did all of this and more. Very collaborative, started with no predilection of the answer, just didn't have any, you know, everybody was telling me, why are you doing this again? You know, they would bring me their innovation report and say, just dust this off, put a new cover on it, and this is it. You know, it was right 10 years ago, it's still right today. You know, and this would happen from various countries that would bring us their innovation report. And that's not, you know, it's not action-oriented enough. It doesn't tell us, you know, enough about what we really need to do or what we need to change. So we stuck it out. We did the report. You can get it, by the way. You can go to the Council on Competitiveness' website, and you can download for free the NII, the National Innovation Initiative. It's still there. I checked a little while ago. What is innovation? This is the innovation that I'm talking about, my friends. This is the innovation that matters. It is that value that you unlock when you understand the problem, the market, the need, better than anyone else, and then you engage your intelligence. You engage your technology, you engage your products, you engage your knowledge in a unique and facile way to unlock that value. So it's there for everyone to see. It's not a mystery. You don't need to divine your way to success. It's right in front of everyone. But somehow, only a very few gifted, talented people are able to unlock that value. And that value, it could be business value. It could be societal value. It could be educational value. It could be political value. It doesn't just have to be business value. That's the innovation that matters. That's the definition that I use. Could be a technology. Doesn't have to be. Could be a product. Doesn't have to be. Some of the better thoughts, some of the bigger ideas are neither one. Are neither one. We put together a fine report. Please read it. I'm not going to bore you with it. It's got a lot of the right stuff in it. You know, you talk about the obvious things. We need skills. We need an infrastructure. We need a government that's supportive of doing things. The one thing I will tell, and lots of these things are being addressed by a lot of people, the one thing that is fundamentally still wrong that I will parenthetically ask you to think about is we still measure ourselves in this arena. We still measure ourselves with 18th, perhaps at best 19th century metrics. We still assume that everyone goes to work. We still assume, more importantly, that everyone goes to work in a factory. So we measure progress with an industrial age set of tools. We've not been able to break that. We've tried. We've had many people work at this. So it still needs lots of attention. In fact, I'm a senior fellow at the Kauffman Foundation. Our president, Carl Schramm, was given this job by President Bush as we presented this work to President Bush. And Carl failed miserably to come up with a new set of metrics. Probably the only thing Carl's ever failed at, and I get the pleasure of reminding him of this every time I get this. So it's an open issue, and it's not just here. It's not just here. It's everywhere, everywhere in the world. So if you're thinking about different kinds of things, you might want to think about that as an opportunity to do something. The rest of these things, pretty standard, pretty straightforward, pretty understandable. And I must say, in many cases, our federal government took this report seriously. We actually converted this into a piece of legislation called the America Competes Initiative. You know, it's rare that you take something like the NII and then see it through becoming a law, which President Bush signed in his last year of office, and then unfortunately President Obama got the funds through the America Recovery Act for entirely different reasons. This is where I want your head on this topic of innovation. The environment. Now you know this. You do this here at Olin already. The environment is not an isolation environment. No, you know, if you're going to be a Nobel laureate and you're that blessed, you know, may the gods be with you and do it. But so few of us are going to be that way. So we need to have an environment that's open, that's collaborative, that's multidisciplinary, and global. That's the environment that I encourage people to build, whether it's here at a university, or in business, or in government. That's the environment, that's the winning environment. This is an enabling environment. That's an important word, enablement. You want people to be enabled to be their best, to be able to do their best, to be welcomed, to feel comfortable that they can do their best. And then that innovation that you're looking for, as I said, it could be a product, it could be a service. It could be a process. The process may be the answer. That's where all the value is. See, you have to remember that value migrates and you don't control it. You don't control it. The minute you presume you have the answer without understanding the problem, chances are you're on a course for failure. You're born at the wrong time. That worked in the 20th century. It doesn't work in the 21st. We're the people that used to throw all this crap on the wall just to see what stuck in the information technology industry, and whatever stuck, we sold to you. We made you want it. Hey, you like 35 features? You're going to like 3,500 features. You know, you like a megapixel? You're going to like 10 megapixels. You like 10 gigabytes? You're going to like 10 terabytes even more. You have no idea what these things are. You have no idea why you need them? But because I told you I sold one to her, and she's your competitor, you're going to buy one. You're going to buy one because why would you want to not have what she has if you're competing with her for the same thing? That's how it worked when I was a young man in this industry. It don't work that way now. You're smarter, you're more sophisticated, everybody's brighter, everybody's looking for what the real value is. You see the shift that's going on here? You see the way this is working out? So don't fall in love with products and services. Maybe it's your process, could be your business model. Okay, I'm starting a cell phone company in India. Want to join me? And I've decided that in order for me to have 250 million clients, I am going to own no assets. I'm not going to have a network. I'm not going to have a back office. I am only going to control the customer relationship side of the business. And by the way, if you're my back-end partner, you're not getting paid if I don't grow. If I don't grow 40% in a year, you're not getting any money.
I'm still with you.
You're not getting any money, and I'm not paying you either if you're my infrastructure provider. You want to sign up for that model? Will that model work? Bharti Airtel, largest telco provider in India. In less than 10 years, guy took $200,000, his own money, and started this company. What does he do? Has he got anything that's clever? Not a thing. Not a thing. Same components that everybody else has, he has. His model. That business model is his innovation. That's what allowed it. He was smart enough to know, I can't grow this thing fast enough. If I have these growth objectives, I can't bring enough people on board to do this. You got to trust other people. But I'm not going to be blindly trusting them. I'm only going to trust them if they help me get to my objective, which is to grow. I don't grow, you don't get paid. Pretty simple. By the way, IBM was his infrastructure partner. And this is the same guy, by the way, who had stopped Walmart cold in India because Walmart tried, if you remember, on their own to go into India and didn't have the bona fides. Didn't have the bona fides to get the Indian clients to buy from them, so Bharti took over the front end of the store, and they just used Walmart's back end for logistics and for delivery. So the model could be the innovation, could be the management system. What does that mean? You ever hear of this company, topcoder.com? You ever hear of it? It's a cute little company. Glastonbury, Connecticut, not so far away from here. I'm on their board. It's a family-owned business. There's 40 people in the company, and the only reason there's 40 people in the company is because he has a very large family. If it was a little smaller, there'd probably be 20 people in the company. Every day, 250,000 people go to that website looking for work. It's a software development company. Software development company. The processes that he put in place, the management system that he put in place, enables him to bid for business, to win business, and then break it up into small pieces so that every one of you can compete for it, but I only have to pay the winner. So 10 people sign up to go after the architecture. 10 people sign up to write that module. 10 people sign up to integrate it. 100 people sign up to test it. They all give you proposals. They all do it openly. They all do it in a socially networked fashion. You get to tell them what a jerk I am because of the failure I had the last time. I get to tell them what a jerk you are because you didn't achieve your goals either. The winner's announced, and only the winner gets paid. Pretty innovative, huh? Only his money. Small amount of money to get started. He's in his 5th year. He's a multi-million dollar business right now. Very modest investments. You see where the innovation is? And by the way, he's one of the best examples I have for someone who's monetized the social network phenomenon in a different way. No banners, no advertising, no service, everything's free, everything's open. You just don't get paid if you don't win. Pretty interesting approach. And of course, we can go on for days about societal innovation. dealing with the issues of the environment, dealing with the issues of water, of energy, of air, I mean, it goes on. Carbon footprints. Who's at the base of the pyramid? Why are they there? Are they going to come off the base of the pyramid? What's going to happen to microfinancing? What happens to the next, 3 billion people that populate the planet? Do they start out at the base of the pyramid, or can they start somewhere else? And what's required for them to start somewhere else? You're not going to do that with linear thinking. You're going to do that by thinking innovatively. Not just in this country did we do this work. We did this, before I left IBM, I did this work maybe in 12 other countries. I did it in Vietnam, I did it in India, I did it in Korea, I did it in Mexico, I did it in Malaysia, I did it in Indonesia. I mean, I was just all over the globe doing it. I've been to Brazil, I've been to Chile, I've been to Argentina. Constantly, there isn't a country in the world that doesn't want to be the innovative leader, whatever that means. You ever heard anybody say, no, not me? I don't want that. Whatever that's bad here. You know, we don't want to be innovative here. We just like to be slow followers. We want to mope along. You know, we'll clean up after you create all these messes. And we'll do just fine. Not at all. Not at all. I remember specifically being asked by the president of Vietnam to come to his country. Now, I didn't want to go to Vietnam. I did not go to Vietnam. I'm a Vietnam-era person. I did not fight in the war. I mean, I was deferred, thank God, for a myriad of reasons. It wasn't a war I wanted to fight, nor did I think we should have fought it, but I'm not going to go on that political soapbox here with you. And then when I was asked to meet with this gentleman, when he came to the United States, I wasn't so sure I wanted to do it. Like, why would I want to do this now? I didn't want to go there then. I don't know if I want to meet with him now. He was a general. He was the general that beat us in that conflict, in that war. But, you know, you do some strange things for business. That's a lecture of a different kind. And I sucked it up and went to New York to meet him. And once I sat down next to him, I knew I did the right thing. Because the first words out of his mouth were, Mr. Donofrio, can you help me? My people work incredibly hard. My country of 80 some odd million people. My people are incredibly literate. 95% of them know how to read, write, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. The only thing that's wrong with my country is the only work we get is the work that no one else wants. Can you help me get the work that everybody else wants? Because my goal is to help my people raise their standard of living, not just survive, but to thrive. He's a general. He's a general. I mean, it's almost like, you know, he had looked into my heart, written down what he saw, and then just fed back to me the things that he knew I would have to respond to. So yes, I did. I said, of course. I went to Vietnam 3 times for IBM. They don't even have the word innovation in their language. They had to come up with a new word. They had to come up with a different word in order to convince people, to start to help people understand what they were going to try to do as they went forward. I'm going to shift slightly, capture those thoughts now, and let's talk about what do you do now to make a difference. So how do you keep thinking innovatively? Where do you want to make your value add? And here, this is what you are made of. And I said this to some of you earlier today. I've kind of said to myself, do you want to be in the component business, or do you want to be in the systems business? You can do well either place. You can do well either place. You just have to remember what the value is that you're going to get for your effort. Are you going to get enough value if you're in the component business? It could be any kind of component. It could be a hardware component, a software component, it could be a service component, I don't care. It could be any kind of component you think of. Is that what you want? Or do you want to be in the higher value part of this whole innovation creation that kind of brings all of these things together? Do you want to be the system thinker? Do you want to be the systems integrator? Do you want to deal with the bigger problem? Or do you want to deal with the component? And we need them all. We need them all. I'm just going to tell you right now, over time, component providers are not going to be in this country. Not at this standard of living. If your thesis says we're going to lower our standard of living, and there are some people that are saying that now, that our standard of living has peaked and is likely to drop if we don't do something drastic about it, read the latest McKinsey report on the growth plans for the United States. It just came out. It's off their website. Very telling. Very telling. You got to change what you're doing, and you got to focus where the value is, not where the value was. It's sad that we lost those auto jobs out of Detroit. You know, it's sad that only 1% of the country's farmers now, where, what, 200 years ago, 95% of the country were farmers. All of those things might give you reason to lament. They should give you reason to be alert, hopeful, and inquisitive about, so where are those opportunities? Because they don't go away. They just manifest themselves in a different way. And you've got to be looking for them in a different way. Now, IBM has been trying to do that with their Smarter Planet thing. Haven't they? I mean, if you think about what's going on with the Smarter Planet, it's all about stuff up here. It's not about stuff down there. You know, and I'm proud of the fact that it's not like buy my DB2 versus Oracle, you know, or buy my, you know, a P-series server versus HP, or buy this versus that. It's not that. It's, aren't these problems noble? Aren't these problems the kind of problems you want to solve? Of course they are. So we did a lot of research on this while I was at IBM. We ran a process called the Global Innovation Outlook. We brought people together in a collaborative, open, multidisciplined, global fashion. We started with the problem versus the answer. We never discussed the answer. For days, we never discussed the answer. We only wanted to understand the problem. And then we promised you that we would publish everything so that you would get all the information to be able to do whatever you wanted with it. And what IBM did with all of those global innovation outlooks, you could get those, by the way, from the IBM website. You went and looked up Global Innovation Outlook. You could, I think there's 10 of them. Energy, the environment, water, Africa, healthcare, education. I'm sure I'm missing a few. Incredible wealth of information, not knowledge, information, looking to be converted into knowledge and intelligence. That's what's going on with Smarter Planet. That's the theme and the thesis behind what IBM has unleashed here. Now, smarter, I mean, what? How bright is that? I mean, so would you like a stupid city? You know, of course I want to have a smarter city. You want to have a stupid planet or a smarter? Of course I want to have a smarter planet. You want a stupid university or a smarter university? I mean, I haven't found anybody that says I want to be the stupid one. You know, everybody wants to be smarter, even though smarter, as we found out, doesn't translate itself in every language either. I don't need to speak to this. I mean, there are problems. They're clear. I mean, the more salient problems are the problems that you wake up to CNN with. You say there's energy problems. Man, are there energy problems or what? I mean, you got the picture here. You know, I don't care whether oil is going to drop down below $100 a barrel or not. You know, we're going to be in this bad spot. So the energy issues that you should be thinking about, they are economic driven, they are security driven, they are environmental driven. Those are the three drivers of energy, not one or the other, all three of them. You need them all. You need a plan to work on them all, or else you're screwed. You're absolutely fundamentally screwed in the end. And we're not in a great spot as a nation. Now, the good news is there's a lot of other countries that compete with us. They're not in great places either. Right? They've got the same set of problems. They got to go do something about them. We've got to do it faster than everybody else. I'll put a plug in for water here. I'm going to say something about water as well. I mean, everybody wants to talk about carbon footprints. Everybody wants to talk about energy. So if you really want to motivate yourself someday, just think about the fact that we are destroying the fresh water supply of the globe. We're not supposed to do that. right? 75% of the globe is water, and what is it? 75%, less than 1% of it's potable. And we're not supposed to be screwing up the stuff that we're allowed to drink, but yet we are. We are reducing the freshwater supply of the globe. Not only isn't it where we need it to be, there's not much of it anymore either. So it's in the wrong place, and we don't have enough of it for the globe. And the reason I like to speak about water when I get on this soapbox is because it's always in everybody's top 10 list, but it never breaks into the top 5. It always seems to stay in the top 10 list. But in the end, water is going to be a trade-off for energy. You're going to end up having to deal with that. And it's going to become an element of security. You saw a few years ago people up on the northern border arguing with Atlanta over who had the right to the water up there. And, you know, California is constantly bickering with its neighbors in the west, like who's got the right to that water. You haven't seen anything yet. And look at the messy winter we had. I mean, we'll have an even messier summer. That's the only thing you can say with certainty is that things are going to be predictably changing. I'm not going to go through that. So, I want to spend a minute on this to pound this into you. I want to pound this into you because no matter how many people tell you, we've thought about that before, I want you to think about it again. I learned a long time ago as an engineer, when nothing is going well, it usually means something is wrong with your assumptions. Because when all else fails and you've checked everything else, that's what's wrong. Your assumptions are wrong. So listen to the assumptions here. We are now an incredibly instrumented world. Going to become even more instrumented in every way you can think of. Whether it's you individually, the processes that we have, the systems that we use, the governments that we have, they're all going to become more and more instrumented. You know, little thing we kind of put together for IBM. We harvest more transistors every year than we harvest grains of rice. Think about it. We make more transistors every year than we make grains of rice. It's pretty profound. The calculation says there's like 1 billion transistors for every man, woman, and child on the planet. Now these are transistors. They're not devices. They're little things inside the device. But that's pretty profound when you think about it. And then they're interconnected, increasingly so. It's going to be even more interconnected. It's not perfect, but it's going to get better. It will become perfect. It will become, you'll look back, just like I look back on 1995 on the internet, you'll look back and say, oh, how did we do, you know, what the hell were we thinking? You know, on February 22nd, 2011 at Olin College, man, those were the dark ages. You know, we were doing that crappy little stuff. Look at what we can do now. It's the way it's going to go. It's the way it's going to go. The question is, with all of this going on, is it intelligent? That's the operative word. That's the issue that's left. So can you make it intelligent? Can you make intelligence out of it? Whether they're old problems, new problems, I don't care. Things that people said you couldn't do, you can do. You better do. We need to do. If we don't, we may not be around to do anything. That's how serious I think the situation is, and that's how ripe we are for rapid change, for rapid innovation in this world. This is straightforward. I'm not going to spend any time on this. I like this slide for this last point. Over on column 3, act with speed. There's not enough attention paid to the fact we don't have all the time that we need. We don't. Whether it's a company, an institution, or country. You don't have all the time you think you have. Time is not your friend. It is your enemy. Now, let's be very bipolar here and non-insulting, okay? Chinese are moving at warp speed. Are we? Can you name an industry where we're moving at warp speed? Just give me one. Certainly not energy. Certainly not the making of or the distributing of. Certainly isn't manufacturing. Okay, maybe it's services. Maybe we're moving at warp speed there. But are we going to be able to keep it? Because there are closing gaps. I said this earlier to some of you. It's not just the rate of change that you want to focus on. It's the rate of change of the rate of change that you should be looking at. Look at the second derivative, not the first derivative. Second derivative is more telling. It tells you whether or not you're speeding up or whether your speeding up is slowing down. Those are very leading indicators, my friends. And you want to always be looking for leading indicators, not lagging indicators. Lagging indicators, everybody will eventually know. Leading indicators, the winners know. They have ways of figuring out what those leading indicators are. And speed is not on your side.